I can't pay rent, then my landlord brought his friends. The sound of rain against my window was almost soothing that evening, but nothing could calm the storm raging inside my mind. My name is Emily Carter, a 27-year-old woman trying to survive in a small apartment on the edge of town. Life hadn't exactly turned out the way I thought it would. Just a year ago, I had a steady job at a marketing firm, a boyfriend who I thought cared about me, and enough savings to feel secure. But things can change so quickly. The company downsized. My position was one of the first to go, and the boyfriend who once promised he would always stand by me packed his bags the week after. Suddenly, I was alone, unemployed, and struggling to make ends meet. The bills piled up, groceries became scarcer, and the rent loomed over me like a dark shadow. My landlord, Mr. Harris, wasn't exactly the understanding type. He was a man in his early 50s, tall with a graying beard, and always dressed in the same brown leather jacket, as if it were part of his skin. He wasn't cruel, but he was firm. To him, business was business, and excuses were just that, excuses. For 3 months, I had managed to scrape together enough to keep him at bay, selling old clothes, taking small freelance jobs online, and even pawning off jewelry I once swore I'd keep forever. But that month, I had nothing left. I remember the knock at the door clearly. It was a cold Tuesday evening. The rain hadn't stopped all day, and I was curled up on the couch, staring at my nearly empty fridge, as if food would magically appear inside it. When I heard the knock, my stomach twisted. I already knew who it was. Slowly, I opened the door, and there stood Mr. Harris. Only this time, he wasn't alone. Behind him were 2 men I didn't recognize. One was younger, maybe in his 30s, with a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. The other was older, stocky, with a heavy jacket that looked out of place indoors. Both men stood with their hands in their pockets, their eyes scanning me and then the small apartment behind me. I felt uneasy immediately. "Emily," Mr. Harris said in his deep voice, "we need to talk." I swallowed hard and stepped aside, letting them in. The 3 of them entered, and suddenly my small living room felt suffocating. The rain outside seemed louder, almost as if it were warning me that something was about to happen. "I know why you're here," I said softly. "I don't have it. Not this month." Mr. Harris sighed and leaned against the arm of the couch, while the 2 men stood near the door. "You're behind, Emily. 3 months now. I've given you extensions, I've listened to the promises, but I can't keep carrying you like this. The building has rules, and I have responsibilities too." My chest tightened. "I'm trying. I've been applying everywhere. I just need more time." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded toward the 2 men. "That's why I brought them. They're not here to hurt you, or anything like that. They're here to offer solutions." The younger man stepped forward and introduced himself as Jason. He said he ran odd jobs and small moving businesses around town. The other, Mark, stayed quiet, his eyes on me like he was studying whether I was trustworthy. Jason explained that they often worked with people who needed fast cash, but didn't have steady jobs yet. Temporary work, heavy lifting, deliveries, even cleaning up properties that had been abandoned. At first, I felt defensive. It was embarrassing having strangers know I was broke, that I couldn't even cover my rent. But then something inside me shifted. Maybe this was a chance. Maybe this was the lifeline I'd been begging for. "I don't know if I can do that kind of work," I admitted, my voice trembling. "You can," Jason said confidently. "And if you do, Mr. Harris can get his money sooner rather than later. Everyone wins." The conversation stretched into hours. They told me about different tasks I could take on, some safer and easier than others. Cleaning old storage units, painting rundown apartments, carrying furniture into moving trucks. It wasn't glamorous, but it was work. That night, after they left, I sat alone in the dim light of my living room. My rent wasn't magically paid, but for the first time in months, I didn't feel completely hopeless. I thought about my parents back in Ohio, about how I hadn't told them I was struggling because I didn't want to seem like a failure. I thought about my best friend Rachel, who always offered me her couch, but I was too stubborn to accept. And I thought about how easily everything in life could be taken away, leaving you with nothing but survival instincts. The next morning, I showed up at the address Jason had given me. It was an old warehouse on the far side of town, the kind of place where stories like mine often began and sometimes ended. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet, reflecting the gray sky above. Inside, a group of people were already working, men and women who, like me, probably never thought they'd end up here. Some were carrying boxes, others sweeping floors, and a few loading a truck with old furniture. Jason spotted me and gave me a nod.
"You showed up," he said.
"Good. That means you're serious." And I was. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself working harder than I ever had before. My hands grew rough, my back ached, but each time I handed Mr. Harris an envelope with part of the rent, I felt a small piece of dignity return. I wasn't proud of how I got there, but I was surviving. And sometimes, survival is enough. But I didn't know then that what started as a simple deal to pay my rent would unravel into something much darker. Because not every job Jason and Mark offered was as harmless as moving furniture or sweeping floors. Some jobs came with shadows, with risks I wasn't ready for, and with secrets I never wanted to uncover. And that's when I realized, sometimes the rent you can't pay costs more than just money.